Greens, welcome to the final event for Friday during the 2023 GPUS Annual National Meeting. My name is Margaret Elizabeth. I'm a co-chair of the Green Party of the United States. I'm a co-chair of the National Lavender Green Caucus and the chair of the Washington Green Party. A few notes before we begin. You're welcome to use the chat feature. I'm pointing at the chat feature. You're welcome to use the chat feature as the film is playing. Please remain muted for the duration of the film. More than 70% of Americans support single-payer healthcare, but the real tipping point won't occur unless we all come together and get involved. Welcome to tonight's film, Healing Us, a documentary about universal healthcare as a human right, which aligns with the Green Party platform. Along with explaining this basic human right, the film explores how and why universal healthcare should be the policy of the United States. We're grateful and honored to be joined this evening by Healing Us filmmakers Kenny Ballentine and Maddy Purves, founder of the Red Berets, Laura Fielding, and Scott Desnoyers, a passionate and devoted healthcare advocate, all of whom will meet after the film. The film will run for about an hour and 15 minutes, and we'll have about 30 minutes at the conclusion of the film to do a Q&A with our guest panelists this evening. So without any further ado, please make yourself comfortable and let's get on with it. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is this. I have a lot of words. I'm sure we all have a lot of things to say. I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a preamble. This is my second time seeing the film, and it hits just as hard the second time as it did the first one. There's so much of it that I think that, honestly, the first time was so raw that I was still processing it when the next part was coming up, and I missed a lot of the nuance with it. So I really appreciate getting a chance to see it again. As you've probably been seeing, there's been a lot of chat or a lot of discussion in the chat about a lot of the film, different parts of it, what we do, how we do it, all the things like that. I do have a few questions for everyone here. And if we have time after that, we'll take some questions that we got out of the chat and we'll see how that goes. And I'll kind of split them around and we'll go from there. But I just want to say once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart and for all the Greens who were here tonight, who got a chance to watch this. This was a really powerful and moving piece. We really appreciate having a chance to screen that here at our annual national meeting. As you know, it's a big cause for us and we really believe in it. And I think this was the kind of call to action sort of thing that a lot of us really were looking for. Okay, so the first question I have, and let me just direct this to either Kenny or Maddy. How did you get Susan Sarandon involved in this project?
Well, it's not easy to really retell that story, how it all kind of came together. Susan obviously has been a really powerful advocate for Medicare for all and for every movement out there, state-based movement out there for universal health care. Susan has been amazing. So we knew it would not be difficult to persuade her to get involved. It was just a matter of how do we actually get in front of her and ask her to do it. Luckily, we had the amazing powerhouse Scott Desnoyers as part of our movie. And Scott has been on the forefront of so many actions all over the country, but especially in New York, and has crossed paths with Susan Sarandon a few times. He is just respected in virtually every part of this movement. And so I honestly believe, we went through the proper channels, through SAG and all that to ask if Susan could do this. But I honestly think it was when she learned that Scott was a part of our movie and he wanted her to be a part of this, that she said, I absolutely want to be involved, because she cares about Scott and about Danny's story. And really, she did this because she's a real believer, Yeah. So that's how that happened.
I mean, that's really powerful. I actually, I suppose, Scott, that lets me transition into the next question, and I'll ask you. I know you've been traveling around a lot, obviously, for healthcare advocacy, and since this film has been out, you've been kind of like touring with the movie. I wonder if you could kind of give us a sense of like how many places you've been to, and what you feel that the overall reception has been like for your message and your story. How have people reacted to that, and do you think that that is the sort of thing that is making people become motivated?
Yeah, thank you. First off, I mean, starting up from the beginning, I want to say that Susan got involved because she cares. I mean, she's a mom, and like Kenny had said, she's an activist, and yeah, he's dead on with that. I mean, it is 100% Susan's heart that got her involved. She heard of Danny's story early on, and amplified his story to help us move towards Medicare for all. As far as where I've been, oh my goodness. This month, well, this previous month, I would say it was New York City, Minnesota, and then it was also Salt Lake City and Denver, Colorado, which was a sold out show. But I've also been to Tacoma, Seattle, San Francisco. I was also with the Nancy Pelosi group. Been to Springfield, Massachusetts, to protest against the head of the Ways and Means Committee there. Also to Washington, D.C. several times where I've been arrested, Albany, and we're going to be screening in Saratoga Springs, my hometown, where I grew up as a child, and I'm bordering town of now. Messaging, people start to understand how broken our system is. When we can lose our children for being late on a $20 payment to a corporation worth $60.1 billion on Medicaid, it doesn't get more broken than that unless you call in the founder of that corporation was a Father Patrick Frawley, a priest of the Brooklyn Catholic Diocese that started Fidelis Care and got $3.8 billion for selling it. That's how broken our system is.
It's a heartbreaking story. It really is. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being brave enough to share it with the world. I think it's the kind of thing that people need to see. Laura, I know you've been involved in healthcare advocacy for a long time as well, especially here in Washington with Whole Washington. If other people don't know, I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit about what Whole Washington is, and then what happened with the vote we just had on it recently.
Sorry, it's taking me a moment to unmute.
You got it.
I am not sure if I'm up to speed about the vote that you are referring to. I've kind of been on a little bit of a break. I know right now that Whole Washington is in the middle. Yeah, right. Okay, thanks for clarifying, Jason. I was like, did I miss something really big? I know that oh gosh, what is it called? Type it in the chat, Jason. I'm really blanking on this. The commission, thank you, is going to be considering the Whole Washington Health Trust. And so people that are in Washington State right now with Whole Washington, what we're engaged in is contacting our legislators, email, writing postcards, trying to get their participation in and their support for this consideration of the Whole Washington Health Trust. And for other people that aren't very familiar with it, we have legislation. There was a piece in the film at the beginning where we were hanging up wanted posters of Senator Annette Cleveland. She's the chair of the Senate Healthcare Committee, and she has never let a single payer bill out of her committee. So it was really disappointing a couple of years back when they introduced a 4-page commission bill to study single payer, which is what we're in the middle of right now, because prior to that, Whole Washington was coming with a force as a force to be reckoned with, because we have a bill and we've run ballot initiatives that's fully funded, and if passed, would save, as a conservative estimate, $9 billion every single year. So yeah, it's been really disappointing to see that basically this effort that's happened in Washington state to kind of water things down and kick the can down the road is essentially the same thing that's happening in California. I wonder if this is a coordinated effort and who's funding it? It's a good question, right? But yeah, so, but just to kind of loop back to where this all started, you know, we really strongly encouraged with Whole Washington the direct democracy ballot initiative, and also kind of helped to foster this fight on all fronts solidarity strategy, because Whole Washington, in addition to having our state legislation and ballot initiatives, we have supported hearings, we have done rallies. Some of the footage that you see in the film is outside of Representative Kilmer's office, where we're demanding that Representative Kilmer co-sponsor Rep. Jayapal's bill. So we've tried to foster this approach of what can Whole Washington do as we're out collecting signatures and bringing people into the organization. We can then send our volunteers out to then also advocate for national single payer, national Medicare for all. And we fight on both fronts like that. So does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
You know, as a Green here in Washington, I've been really happy that my state party has been completely behind the Whole Washington effort. Of course, we would be, and I've been personally really grateful for a chance to speak and advocate for it as well. So there was a question in the chat. I guess I'll come back to that in just a second, but let me go back to Kenny or Maddy. So how did y'all find out about the Red Berets to begin with, and how did you end up getting Laura and all of that in the film?
Sure. The film actually started with the Red Berets and Laura. I was just listening to a podcast. Actually, it was Ryan Knight's podcast, Proud Socialist podcast, I think it was called. I was listening to his podcast, and I heard Laura as a guest on the podcast. And she told her story about the Red Berets and their purpose and what they do. And I remember thinking, this is so cool. Like this really should be a movie. You know, and I always have my ear just kind of turned towards looking for something that would be an interesting documentary. That's what I do. If I find an interesting story, I want to tell it through documentary film. That's my art form. And so when I learned about Laura and the Red Berets, I thought, this is really interesting. I also was certain that someone must have already done this. That certainly someone must have already made a Red Berets documentary. So the first thing I did was I reached out to Laura and I said, hey, I'm a documentary filmmaker from Sacramento, California, and I would really love to come and tell your story about what you're doing to build solidarity for the movement for Medicare for all, and with this visual image of wearing Red Berets and all these people who are crafters, craftivists, as they call themselves, coming together to make these Red Berets. I want to make a movie about that, but certainly someone's done it already. And she told me, no one's done that, and we would really love someone to come do that, please. So I made a plan to come and shoot with all the Red Berets up in Washington, and Laura went to town to make that a very special visit. I initially thought I would just be shooting with Laura and her fellow compatriots there in the local area, but she went to great lengths to bring in everyone she could. When she learned that there was a filmmaker coming who could shine a light on the movement for Medicare for all, she was like, we need everyone here, all hands on deck. I want to get Scott DeNoyers out here. I want to reach out to Dr. Joe Jarvis and Dr. Dooley. And before I knew it, I had dozens upon dozens of interviews lined up for me. I told Laura, I'm like, I don't know if you meant to do this, Laura, but you are now a producer. You've you've turned this into a very different movie than I originally thought I was making. And by the time I left Washington after that visit, I knew I had begun something that was much bigger and much more important than what I had originally thought I was making. It turned into something, the scope of which covered the entire country, and the meaning of which, the import of the story we were telling became so heavy, so strong, so important, that I knew this would probably something that will be on the forefront of everything I do for the rest of my life, or at least until we get healthcare for all, which
I think
hopefully
if we get that, it's going
hopefully
to
is long before the end of my life.
this was, I think it was a really powerful film. And I know everyone who I've talked to has seen it agrees with that. You mentioned producing, and so I'm going to kind of be a little bit lighthearted with my question to you, Laura. Speaking of producing, how many berets do you think you produce, like, per month? What do you do with them? Do you like send them off to charities or groups? And how could we get some of those sweet berets in our own hands?
Well, I often say when we talk about it as being an organization, we are not a nonprofit, we are not an official organization, we're a grassroots coalition. And so the first thing I want to do is empower all of you who are watching this with us tonight. We'll probably talk about healinusnetwork.com before it's finished, but we want to empower everyone to just create your local crafting and artist circles, and you can do this around the Greens organizing locally. You can do it around your own local healthcare organization. So one of the ways that we've done it, and I've donated my own berets, and Lori Jackson donated, I could name a bunch of crafters, Michelle DeVilliers and Fran Bauer, who's a retired operating room nurse who lives in Florida, has just donated hundreds of berets to whole Washington. Is what we were doing, is just donating our work so that our craftivism could benefit. We could raise some grassroots dollars for ballot initiatives like whole Washington, but certainly people could do this in their own state and for their own efforts. That's why I didn't want to incorporate. It's a free idea. I just asked that people not go out and start wearing red berets for protecting the insurance lobby. But, I don't think we're going to do that. Everybody knows who we are and what we stand for. But I would love to send and just donate some berets to Green Party. We sent some off to, what we've tried to do is just get them out to independent media people so that they could put them on. That's kind of how Ryan Knight got to hear about us. We've tried to just make them very visible so that we could build the national movement. We sent some for the Force the Vote effort. We just tried to get them out there because we didn't want them to be solely linked to any particular party or organization. But having said that, as I say online a lot, the single payer is it's been a part of the Green Party platform. So certainly Red Berets have a home with the Green Party as opposed to the Democrats, who don't even include single payer or Medicare for all in their national party platform. So, but people can contact me and people can be in touch through the network that we'll talk about if you are wanting to get involved as a craftivist or know more about that. Otherwise, I just empower you to get to work and use your creativity in whatever way moves you, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So there's like there's a phrase for eco-socialist greens as opposed to some of the others, and they're referred to as watermelons because they're red on the inside and green on the outside. So that seems like a green and red combo, which would be a good beret. Like maybe a watermelon beret. I don't know. It seems like it
Yes.
could be fun.
Yes, absolutely. Freedom of creation. Yes, we've just like Scott is wearing, one with the suicide prevention colors, teal and purple. We really wanted this to kind of foment creativity. And so there's not a particular pattern or shade, just let your creativity. The whole fundamental premise is solidarity, demands for healthcare, both locally and nationally, and linking arms, linking us together. So that's the premise of it, really.
Thank you very much. I want to check in with Dee to see if Dee, if you've been able to pick up any questions out of the audience participation so far.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any specific questions. There's been a lot of conversation back and forth about various things that I'm not seeing any direct questions to our panelists. But
If
now
I'm-
opportunity.
A couple of statements that were mentioned in the chat that I'd like to address, actually. One was uniting these state-based legislations. And that is one of the goals that we have in the Red Berets, which is why I traveled to all these states. Because we already realize that the insurance companies are already in all these different states. So we have to unite these different state-based legislations. And one of the ideas that Dr. Jarvis actually has, because another thing that was brought up in the chat is the money that they're going to dump into these states that have an accessible path here. So Dr. Jarvis's plan is to try to get as many states doing introducing the legislation or ballot on the same year of 2024. Common Sense Utah is going to put their ballot out on 24, and we're going to try to do whole Washington as well, and possibly try to get New York Health Act to get their legislation through the House and the Assembly and the state Senate.
No, thank you very much. And there's been a lot of conversation in the chat, so I'm sure there have been questions. I just missed them. So if there's anything that y'all read that you'd like to address as well, we're short on time, so I don't want to go over too much because I know it's super late for our East Coast friends. Here on the West Coast, of course, it's a decent time of night.
There is one question is being asked: is there a ballot measure written out where other states can use?
I think that, and I'm hoping that Kenny or Maddy want to make the Healing Us Network pitch, but I'll just say that, there will be ways to connect with organizations that can help with that through what they're going to say about Healing Us Network. And can I very quickly just give my shout outs that I wanted to give to the Green Party in specific. First of all, Jason Call, who's with us tonight watching the movie. Just wanted to say thank you again to Jason, who, has organized so much and was a big part of this film. You did see him a few times. He actually drove a couple of us activists down to the protest outside of Nancy Pelosi's house. Just a real fighter for this cause, organized with him for years. And thank you all for, supporting his campaign, and also just the Green Party locally showed up at that protest outside of Representative Kilmer's office. So that was whole Washington, but it was a whole coalition of different organizations where we're all in the red berets and on the steps and everything. There was definitely a lot of local green representation there. So I just want you all to really feel, there's a lot of green solidarity in this movie, and I'm so happy too that we got a chance to screen it here tonight.
I'm really grateful that we got a chance to have it here tonight too. Maddy or Kenny, would you like to talk about the Healing Us Network? Will we have some time?
Yes. Yeah, I'll address that question, as well as one of the other questions was, where can we get the film, or how can we see the film? So The Healing Us Network is meant to be a lot more than just a website for a movie that we made. What we want to do is make a tool, a place where everyone who cares about healthcare for all in this country can come together and connect and learn from one another and share best practices and support one another. So at the moment, it's in its infancy. Right now, it's a place you can go to and you can see all of our partners that we've joined with so far. You can learn about the work they're doing and you can reach out to them and support them however you like. But there is more on the horizon. Very soon, it'll be a place where it'll become very easy to connect with anyone else within the movement and reach out to them and learn what they're doing and ask how you can be a part of what they're doing, or ask them to be a part of what you're doing, because that's going to be ultimately the only way that we're going to win, is that we stop seeing ourselves as many separate small movements and as instead one very large movement. And in that, we might all have very different ways in which we participate in that movement. For example, your way might be knitting red berets and giving people a symbol of solidarity to wear on their head wherever they go so they can start conversations about healthcare for all. You also might be someone who's writing legislation for your state, right? What's important is that we all know about each other and we all have a way to talk to each other. And it's in a place that is absent of all the noise and the trolls of the place that used to be called Twitter, and instead happen in a place where we all support one another, right? So that's what the Healing Us Network is all about, and I hope that everyone who's here today will go there, will sign up for our mailing list, and be a part of what we're trying to grow. It's like I said, it's still new, it's still a little baby, but we're going to be turning it into something much more robust, much more functional in the months to come. And what we hope it'll be is just a tool that allows us all to supercharge one another in all of our efforts, right? Because I honestly don't care if healthcare for all happens first in Washington or New York or Utah or California or nationwide. I'm on board for all of them. For all of them. All of us are, and we all need to be, right? And that's what the Healing Us Network is all about. It is also the place where you can access our movie, where you can buy DVDs. You can order a DVD tonight. You can also find the link to find it on Amazon and Vimeo on demand right now, and you can get your copy to stream and watch tonight. In fact, we lowered the price just before we started this stream today. We lowered the price by half. We want to make it more accessible and available to everyone. So please check that out either on Amazon, Vimeo on demand, or by ordering a DVD. Organize your own screening parties. Have an event in your living room, with your church, with your community group, with your school, whatever it is. We want this movie to be a tool that helps you get the movement going in your area. We think victory ultimately will come by us all doing what we can, where we are, with what we have at that moment, you know? And so that's what we hope this movie and the Healing Us Network will be, is a way for us all to come together and do the best we can with what we have, where we're able to have any kind of influence.
I think that's a beautiful way to sum that up. And I think you're absolutely right. Many hands make light work. And so we're going to need all hands because this is a heavy job. And I think we've reached the end of our scheduled time. If there's any last thoughts you'd like to offer to anyone here, please do so. And then I'll sign us off and do all my closing biddy. Laura or Scott, anything you'd like to add?
Just as
What about
always.
you, Maddie? You haven't said anything.
I know, yeah, Matt hasn't
I'm
offered
trying
in.
yeah, I know. You've all covered it. You've all been great. I'm just happy to see the comments in here. There's a couple of questions that some quick answers. Can we show the film for free at a local public place? Yes, that's one of the things that we are really excited to just encourage people to do. We're trying to come up with we're an independent production. So we're trying to come up with some kind of policy structure, or not policy, that's the wrong word. I'm all politics in my head now. Licensing structure. So that we can retain some kind of control on how big of audiences are, so that we don't lose track of our baby and where it goes. But certainly, if you have a group of under 50 is kind of the number that we're saying, get your friends together, get your families together, and show it at any place you want. The licensing is all yours. That's pretty much what we're going with. And if you want to gift it to somebody, the only way I know how, I don't know how to gift somebody a Vimeo link or an Amazon link. You can send them the link. It's also available, not only is it half off, but it's also available to rent for 24 hours now at a very cheaper price. Send your family the link, or buy 2 DVDs, keep one and send one to your family. That's kind of our idea.
Right on. I think that's a great idea, actually, because they're a half price right now. So buying 2 is the same price as buying 1 from before. Look
Wow.
at that. Math. Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for screening the film for us. Greens and everyone else who came tonight, thank you very much for spending your evening with us and watching this very important film. This is the end of the Friday activities for the A&M. The next events start tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. here on the Pacific Coast. Whatever time that is, I think 11 a.m. for you there on the East Coast. And that will be a looking good and sounding good on video conference with Starling Rankin. And we'll be looking forward to our keynote speaker and address, Peter Kalmus, at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. on the East Coast. Until I see you then, I hope you all have a great night tonight. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us and for your continued advocacy for the things which are going to benefit all of us. Thank you so much. Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
Margaret, and thank you, Green Party. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Thank you.